Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Full Timeout podcast. I'm your host, Ari Bruckman. Joining us this week, our special guest has 7+ years of coaching and leadership experience in the fitness field. She was the 16th woman in the world to win an Iron Maiden. And I got to tell you, impressive when it comes to work ethic to be able to do that. I mean, it just takes a mindset that has to be bulletproof. I mean, on all cylinders, truly. Because after the pain, after the suffering, after everything you truly endure, there has to be that motivation to continue to push forward. And here to talk about that and so much more with us today, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest this week, Miss Rebecca Rouse. Rebecca, how are we doing?
Doing so well. Thank you so much for that awesome intro. Really appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely. Honored to have you on the show here. And if you can kind of give people some background as far as that 7+ years experience in fitness to get an idea of kind of your expertise and what you've been familiar with here.
Sure, absolutely. So let's see. I started personal training just right out of college. I got my personal trainer certification during my junior year of college, but I didn't do anything with it until after I graduated. And my first job after graduation was personal training at Equinox. You might be familiar with Equinox, a pretty high-end gym, but a phenomenal place to start a training career. They provided us so much education, required paid in-house education, which really built my foundation for personal training, and just kind of where I really fell in love with performance and strength. And it was really the time when my personal focus on fitness shifted from aesthetics and like more of the bodybuilding side and into the performance and strength side. And it's kind of just continued from there. So that's where it all started in 2014. And so I spent about 6 years at Equinox, personal training first. And then about a year and a half after I started training, I got interested in leadership, became a manager in training first, and then manager. And I did 5.5 years as a manager until I left last August. So about almost exactly a year ago, I left Equinox just when everything was shut down, and it was unclear at the time when we would be reopening. So I'm not the type of person to like sit around and wait for things to happen. I'd rather make things happen for myself. So I kind of fast forwarded my 5 to 10 year plan and made it my right now plan and started my own business, and have been doing that for almost a year, and it's been going really well. I love it. I've been learning every single day, so many lessons, and lots of failure, lots of growth, lots of triumph, and everything in between. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of my journey as a strength coach and personal trainer.
Yeah, and I want to talk about your business in a little bit here, but I want to go back for a minute for just to fill people in. If you can kind of break down the difference between, the mindset of training for aesthetics versus bodybuilding, and some of the things you've come across. First of all, what kind of triggered that trend, that shift for you in terms of wanting to switch between the two? And also, can you talk about the differences in the approach that you have to be successful, and how that kind of changed?
Sure, absolutely. So I started getting into like the weight room and weightlifting in general in college, my freshman year of college. And after I stopped doing gymnastics, which was kind of like most of my childhood was just gymnastics, and then moved into like bodybuilding and aesthetics. And I feel like a lot of people start there because it's very common and it's kind of just what people learn about first before shifting into other realms like CrossFit or functional fitness or whatever. So I really I enjoyed the process of building muscle, and bodybuilding.com was kind of like the Bible at the time for me, and just learn about, the different muscle groups. And I would do arm day and back day and chest day and shoulder day and the leg day. And I really enjoyed seeing the growth and development of my muscles. And then I learned about figure competitions and bodybuilding and all that. So I did one figure competition and in 2012 when I was 21 years old. And it was an incredible learning experience. I was very young. I think I was the youngest female competitor in the show. And so I did okay. But I think throughout that process, I learned that just from research and through personal experience that there's a lot of aspects of the world of aesthetics that are not really healthy. And that was kind of also the time when I got into becoming really passionate about nutrition and health and starting to think about potentially a career in that industry. And so I started to feel a little hypocritical preaching health and fitness and wellness when so much of that world is just not that, both mentally and physiologically and physically. So it was something I did once. I'm glad I did it for the experience. But as I mentioned before, when I got into Equinox and started learning about the human body and the way that the body works and understanding like how our bodies move through life and space. Like it's not very rarely in life are we going to be moving one joint at a time. Like our bodies are integrated whole. And so it's a very complex system of multiple joints and muscle groups that are always working together at the same time. So it made a lot more sense to me to train the body that way, both for myself and for my clients. Obviously, depending on the client's goal, that will change. But most of the clients that I was working with at the time and I'm working with now are people who just want to move better, look better, feel better. And personally, I feel that the best way to go about doing that is by training the body in the gym to get better at doing things that we're doing outside of the gym in life. So the functional movement patterns like squatting, pushing, pulling, carrying, things like we do every single day. It makes so much sense to train safely in the gym and learn those proper movement patterns under load so that we can prevent injury and move well throughout our life now and forever. So that's kind of the big shift that I had. And so after doing the bodybuilding thing and starting to learn about that functional training and full body training, I just fell in love with the process of getting strong versus getting, putting on more muscle or being more lean. And in the process over the years, just from like years of training, and I've been able to stay lean and stay healthy and move well and get strong without having to like place so much emphasis on counting calories or weighing my food or anything like that. So it's a lot more moderation the way that I live now versus when I was focusing so much on bodybuilding.
I know for myself, working out has been a core practice for anything. Is my business centered around fitness? No. I want to be able to kind of train the next generation of entrepreneurs to go after what they want to do. But at the same time, I feel like if I'm not in the right headspace, right, if I don't follow these core practices that I do, then I can't be the best version of myself, which ultimately then inhibits their growth as to what I can provide, as an entrepreneur myself. Do you find that there's a connection between the increase in positive mental health with some of the clients that you've seen, even if they don't meet the goal, right? Like they start working with you and they have this end goal of, oh, I want a six pack, or, oh, I want this, or, oh, I want that. They don't get that, but you do push them to their limits that they didn't think were possible. You've allowed them to kind of push through barriers, that they thought mentally that just weren't, something that they could accomplish. Is there something there that you've seen with the connection to also having like positive mental health response to fitness?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I think that there's so much carryover in, just becoming a stronger person, which is what I focus on. And most clients that I train are not looking to compete in bodybuilding. They just want to get stronger and move better. Some want to learn kettlebells or whatever, but whatever the goal, just the process and the journey of training to get stronger, to train for a goal or to train for a competition or a certification or whatever it is. There's so much fulfillment and so much growth to be had throughout the journey. And I always encourage my clients, like not to focus exclusively on the destination, because there's so much to be gained from the journey and the process, and every single training session, every single failure, every time you miss a lift, every time you didn't do what you thought you were going to do that day. Like it's an opportunity to learn and get better and continue to push forward. And so it's like you said earlier, like to bulletproof the mind. Like we train the body, but so much of the training journey is also training the mind. And I believe the two work hand in hand. And when you have, you can't maximize your potential as an athlete or a human or whatever, and whatever you want to do, unless you really work on both.
Why is it so important then that they still find ways to incorporate fitness? And how do they kind of look for the right tips from people like yourself who are credible?
That's a really good question. And yes, there is a lot of content on social media. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of bad information. Everyone's got their opinion. And so I think part of it is, when it comes to your social media feed, make sure that you follow people that are credible. And how to know if they're credible, it sometimes can be challenging because everybody wants to appear credible. So, an internet search can help you know a little bit more about these people and whether they actually have a credible history. Are they, scientists? Are they athletes? Are they published? Do they have, data to back up what they're saying? But on the flip side of that, I think there's also value in personal experience. Like everyone's had their journey, everyone's gone through life and had their experiences, and there's lessons to be learned from everyone's individual experiences. So if someone's sharing that, who am I or who's anybody to say your experience is invalid or that's not something that you should be sharing? Like we all have our journey. And so even if I'm not an accomplished athlete, or if I'm not a published author or anything like that, like I think that people can learn from the experiences that I've had, which is what, and social media creates a platform for people to do that. So I think it's up to the consumer to decide who he or she aligns with and who they want to consume content from, and then kind of strip away, the fluff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with unfollowing people if they don't, fit what you want to see, what lifts you up, what motivates you, what pushes you to want to be better. Those are the people you want to follow. And if someone is constantly making you feel less than or making you feel like not worthy, then maybe that's someone you don't need to be following.
I've had a couple people who are trainers themselves in the fitness industry come on the show. One thing I actually haven't had the opportunity to ask them yet, though, that kind of came across my mind more recently is, I don't care if anybody's natural, right? Like I'm not here to tell anybody if they want to take a performance enhancer, whatever the case may be. Some people consider just taking, like Ghost products or that being a performance enhancer. The biggest challenge if you're just trying to get into fitness in general, or really any industry, is how can you separate what you're seeing if you're not seeing all that goes into it? How can you make that in your mind then say, well, is that something that I can achieve? Is that really achievable? I think in the fitness industry, especially, you have people, well, if they're taking this, this, and this, it's not that you can't get to where they are, but there is a distinct advantage that they possess by taking those performance enhancers that maybe you're not privy to because you're not taking them. How important is that you think other fitness influencers kind of just talk about what they're taking to be transparent? And how have you been transparent, with your clients just about what to expect if they go elsewhere?
Yeah. So to your point, the industry, the fitness space and social media, there's a lot of, and so in general, like regardless fitness or not fitness, everybody wants to showcase, most people want to showcase their best self on social media. And there's a lot probably that goes on behind the scenes that is not being shown. And therefore people are being misled, misguided, and have this false sense of what is actually achievable. And I think it's unfortunate that that's the case. So we have like all these people who just want to get better, lose 10 pounds or put on some muscle or whatever, which is very achievable. But then everyone's selling their product or pushing their agenda and maybe isn't being completely transparent about what went into achieve that goal, to look this way or reach that, that weight or achieve that thing. I think that people, when it comes to, hiring a coach or working with a professional, it's important to get the whole story. Like for me personally, like I've never used performance enhancing drugs. I don't believe that just doesn't align with my values and my morals. But I'm pretty transparent. I'm very transparent with on my feed and in my posts about the work that I am doing. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies all the time. There are days I don't want to train. There are days that I'd rather take a nap. I'm not feeling well, time of the month, whatever. But I show up and I put in the work, and that's the mindset that I want to show people that can be really valuable and help them. Because that's the stuff that everybody goes through. And so, even if you're not trying to achieve a huge competition or be a professional athlete or something like that, like these are everyday people that for the most part that are our followers, and they just want to know that like it can be done. And what's the minimum requirement that I need to do every day to just make progress? So when it comes to my own personal clients, I'm very transparent. I'm very raw and real, and like what's realistic. You're not going to gain 10 pounds of muscle in a month. You're not going to lose 10 pounds of fat in a month. It takes time. It's a journey. It's a process, and it takes consistent hard work. There's no magic pill. And if you are looking for the magic pill, you came to the wrong person, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it exists, because it doesn't.
I love that. And it seems like because we have all of these things that give us, and I've talked about this before, but instant gratification, right? We have like next day shipping. We can go to our phone and get whatever emotional response we want by going to YouTube or going to Snapchat. And it almost becomes, in a way, almost like we're kind of imprisoning ourselves to some extent by the content, because it's going to pump out whatever we're seeing, whatever we're liking. It's just going to keep us there, right? I mean, there's things that are even now constructed to where they're worded a certain way to keep people on a platform longer,
Yep.
And that was something I learned recently. But when you talk about starting your own business and, even just your journey in fitness, who did you try to emulate? Was there anybody you looked up to that already accomplished what you were looking to do?
There were some people that early on in my career as a trainer and leader, that really inspired me to, in terms of like the knowledge, the way that they preach and teach fitness to their following. And some people that come to mind, Dan John, he's a big strength guy, big longtime strength coach. And then Martin Rooney, I saw him speak live at a Perform Better Summit, and just the way, the energy that he brought to a group of people, complete strangers that just like instantly felt like family, and very inspiring to listen to him speak and just like bring a group together from people from all different backgrounds, but all have the common goal of just becoming stronger and empowering others to do the same. And Todd Durkin. So those are three people I all saw them speak at Perform Better, and I've been following them for a long time and just seeing what they're doing. And it's something that I aspire to in terms of just like the reach that they have and the impact that they have to inspire coaches and athletes. So those are three people specifically in the fitness industry. And then just in life in general, like the person who inspires me more than anybody is Jocko Willink. And people know that if they follow me, they definitely know that I'm like totally team Jocko. I had the fortune of meeting him last year, and he's just had like an incredibly positive impact on my life, in everything, the discipline that I practice and everything that I do, waking up early, eating healthy, and, you know, training hard, being better, and leading others to follow the same path. Like I believe it wholeheartedly in his mission. And I think he's doing great things, and just having had the chance to meet him in person was pretty powerful. So he's somebody that I definitely look up to in everything that I do.
Definitely seems like a guy I want to meet. I'm actually reading, that's funny you say that. I'm reading his book right now, Extreme Ownership.
It's the best leadership book for life and business.
Yeah, you know, there are a ton of core principles in there. Was there anything though that you've taken away and implemented, but you said, okay, like this is something that can help me right now?
Every single thing, like all the tactics that he talks about. I mean, I've read all of his books and I implement just about everything. And it's, the more I read it, the more I like go through life, the more I realize that it's truly applicable to everything, every arena of life, health, fitness, business, relationships, family, like every single thing, personal development. It's all one of my favorite lines is, as leaders in any field, it's all on you, but it's not about you. So it's on us as, you know, fill in the blank, whatever role you're playing in that moment, to make things happen and to own everything that happens or fails to happen as a leader in your world. And so even though it's not about you as a leader, it's all on you to be the best that you can be and set an example. So I think that's a really powerful line. And just the concept of extreme ownership has like completely transformed the way that I live and made me take full responsibility for my life, my actions, my success or my failures in my business, my relationship with my husband, just everything. So super powerful book for sure.
I want to stay with the accountability aspect there, because whether it's fitness, I mean, obviously it's definitely applicable there, because you can have a great workout with you put them through whatever the toughest, you know, workout you have. They come home, right? They eat this pizza, this kind of erases what they accomplished that day. So there is some ownership on them, especially in the fitness industry, to you know, be accountable if they want to see the results they want to see. But in terms of, you said that it's helped you with not only just fitness and your relationship with your husband, but it's helped you in just all areas of your life. Can you talk about specifically how and where you've seen the biggest difference from taking more accountability and ownership of the things that, even if they weren't your fault, even if you had every single reason to believe or to blame or to not even blame, like somebody else messed up, but you took accountability for it, and that regained the power for you and control over your life?
Yeah, I think with clients, there's a lot of times when, you know, like you mentioned before, where they're not maybe following exactly what I would have done or what I would want them to do, but they miss a workout or they didn't sleep well. Therefore, you know, it's kind of like a downward spiral from there. I have to find a way to take ownership, because they're my client, like that person's my client, and they've paid and entrusted me to help them get results. So if they aren't, you know, adhering to what kind of the plan was that we agreed to for their program, I got to own part of that, all of it, because I'm in charge of helping them maximize their health and wellness and fitness. And if they're not doing it, then I have to take responsibility for that. And then it's a collaborative effort to figure out how we can troubleshoot and like get back on the path. But I do always feel like I have responsibility if my clients aren't reaching their goals or they're not getting the results that they came to me for. So that's one aspect of it. And then with my family members or with my husband, just we don't argue a lot. We're not together physically at the moment. He's in another state because he's in the military and stationed somewhere else at the moment. But just with the distance, and communication is so important. And so we don't have time to like be blaming or pointing fingers. So we both are very aligned on the extreme ownership aspect of things. And so we both just like always take ownership if something didn't go right, and we own the business together. So if something in the business didn't go right, or we find ourselves like in a stupid argument, it takes us 5 seconds and then we're like, this is dumb. We need to own what happened. Let's move on. And so we don't argue nearly as much as we used to. And it's just helped our relationship a lot. And then back to like other principles that he discusses in the book. One of the other ones that's really big for me, specifically in business, is decentralized command. Keeping it simple and decentralized command. And as a business owner, and I'm now like literally this week, I've added 2 new team members to our little growing business. And so it's so important for me to keep that in mind too, as I move forward and managing other team members and leading people. In addition to the members that we have in our membership, now I have team members that are working with us. So making sure that I'm delegating, I'm giving them the power to make the decisions in their world. So we have a social media manager. Yes, I know how to do social media. I do it for my own page, but we've hired somebody to run the social media. So it's going to be up to me to give her, to delegate to her and allow her to fulfill that role without me like breathing down her neck or telling her she should do it my way, making sure that everybody can be the leader in their own right in their world.
I love that idea of decentralized command or decentralized power there, and being able to delegate responsibilities so that you can focus on what you're great at, yep. Right? And then you find people who complement you, right? They fill in the gaps, and you're not asking them to do too much or anything like that, but you're asking them what's in their wheelhouse, right? What can they bring in terms of added value to your company that will take you from here to here? But at the same time, I think of, hey, nowadays it's like, is this person somebody I can give, if it's a password to something or whatever the case may be? How were you able to kind of get past that hurdle? And what did that process look like for you when you were either interviewing or you had somebody interview people potentially for some of these positions as you look to grow? What did you look for that gave you trust that they were going to be able to do not only what you asked them to do to, the best of their capabilities, but also you trusted them? You truly trusted them with your business.
Part of it was just through the interview process, like asking the right questions and really getting to know people, not just for the role that they're going to fulfill, but as a person who has a life and a family and values and things like that, and making sure that it's a good culture fit and the value, the goals and the values are the same in terms of growth. On a personal level, like for me, I'm very type A. I like to control a lot of things. And so this was a very big step for me to let go of some of the responsibilities. But to your point earlier, like I recognize that we can't grow and maximize the business if I'm trying to fulfill every single role, because there's a ceiling there. And so I have to trust that bringing people on the team, even though it's not going to be me doing the work, I have to trust that people are going to be doing good work. And even if it's not 100% exactly to the standard that I would have it, or that I would do it myself, there's people that can do a good job, and there's going to be lessons and growth, and we're going to move forward and build our business bigger than we could if it was just myself and my husband doing it. So
going back to the values you said that you were looking for, that they have to kind of line up. What are some that come to mind? If there are 3 that come to mind, if they don't meet any of these, it's not going to work. What are some of those that you found that are foundationally successful for you?
A strong work ethic is super important, because I believe my husband and I both wholeheartedly believe in the value of hard work. And it's kind of getting harder and harder to find in people these days, just because people are becoming lazier, I think. So finding somebody who's willing to put in the work. Integrity is super important, especially owning an online business where we're not physically together with all the people that are working with us and our members. There's a lot of integrity and trust that needs to be there to make sure that the job is going to get done and everything's going to be recorded and tracked appropriately. So I'd say those are the 2 big ones. Follow up and follow through, I think, are really important in any business, just especially going back to the online business thing, like making sure that people, if they say they're going to do something, that they're going to do it and they're going to follow through with it.
For a lot of the newer entrepreneurs, whatever stage of their life they're at, when I say new, it's more so just like, hey, they're taking the initiative to go out and start their own thing. They could get overwhelmed easily, right? And I know Jocko talks about this, but even the best leaders, right, if they're trying to solve all the different problems at one time, most likely something is going to give, right? So one of them is going to fail. that they're trying to solve, whatever problem, and that's going to be kind of that downward spiral for them. What are some things that you've done like mechanically for yourself that has kind of put you in a better position to lead mentally? Like even some things, I know obviously fitness I'm sure plays a big role, but are there other things, are there other practices you do so where you can kind of say, hey, let me just either meditate or let me take a step back and let me just address this problem, this problem, this problem, instead of saying, oh, my client didn't show up for their workout, they're not doing their diet, they're not doing, you know what I mean? What are the steps that you take to be able to address each problem, to the best of your ability?
I think it comes down to planning and prioritizing. And I have a lot of systems in place to keep myself and now my team members organized. And so I do a weekly plan every Monday morning. I wake up early and I do my morning thing. And then the first thing I do on Monday after my morning routine is just sit down and plan out the week. So I have my 3 main areas of focus for the week. And then those 3 are broken down into like individual tasks that need to get done in order to achieve those 3 areas of focus or those 3 goals for the week. And then every day I have one non-negotiable item. Like no matter what happens, the day might, go to hell. But if all else fails, there is one thing I have to get done each day. So at the end of the week, no matter what happens, I will have achieved 7 things off my list. And so having that really like laser focus on certain tasks that I know need to get done and prioritizing those before everything each day, it has been really helpful. And I know myself, and I know that the morning hours are my best hours. So I stay off of Instagram and all social media until at least noon every single day, because I get my best work done before noon. And I know that whatever comes in the afternoon, if someone calls and wants to get dinner or do a workout or something, I know that I still spent a good like 6 to 8 hours getting stuff done. And that's really helpful. And then for my team members, we have like shared task lists. So everybody can see the tasks that need to get done for this week. I update it every week. People can check off the list as they complete their tasks. So we are all kind of on the same page, and there's transparency among all team members of who's working on what and what the objectives are for the week. And then we have our biweekly team meetings.
So you were just telling me, so I love that, because there's that structure in place that I think if you're a new college grad, right, or you just left a job or something, you're kind of looking for that, right? And so it's like, okay, well, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to take the steps to create that for yourself. Otherwise, nobody's coming to save you. And I think that's the biggest thing, is nobody's going to do that for you. But it's also that much more rewarding when you're able to do so. Can you talk to me about some of the steps that you feel were really pertinent to your success, growing your following over 30,000 on Instagram? I mean, what were some of the steps that you took to grow your personal brand, and what can you kind of say to other people who are looking to do the same right now?
I think it goes back to what we kind of talked about earlier, transparency and authenticity. I didn't do anything like specific except for just show up more. I didn't prioritize Instagram that much for many years. I think I joined Instagram in like 2015, and I would post like a couple times a month, and then as time went on, maybe like a couple times a week. And then I think it really kind of picked up after I left Equinox. And I don't know if it was coincidence or what, but I think just having left the corporate world and being my own boss and starting my own brand was a kind of a catalyst for me to really show up authentically the way that I wanted to, and not feeling like I was representing a company. I think Equinox is amazing, and I had a phenomenal experience there, but leaving that job and really being able to live life on my terms and build a business that is in alignment with my values and my life, that just kind of was really what springboarded my growth. But like I said earlier, I didn't like do anything differently. I just spoke out more. I shared more about what's important to me, what I'm passionate about, talked about strength, mental, physical, all the things that have gotten me to where I am in my own journey, and in hopes of inspiring others. And it worked. I mean, I can't say like one specific thing that I did. I was just authentic.
A lot of entrepreneurs that I've had on the show, whether it's with their business or it's personally, there was a tough point in their life that they were faced with where it was kind of like turn back moment, right? Where they could either keep going and doing and pushing through, or just kind of say, you know what, forget it. I tried. It didn't work. Was there ever a point in your life where you were faced with a series of challenges or one specific thing that stood out from the rest that really tested you mentally or physically to kind of push through or, stop?
Yeah, I can think of a couple. One most recent was what I mentioned was last year when I left Equinox. majority of the trainers that were on my team just waited until the club reopened. And then I think, I left in August and started my business, but the club didn't even reopen until like April. So that was many, many months later. And that was kind of a crossroads for me. Like, am I going to wait and see what happens and hope and pray that I get my job back and start getting paid again? Or am I going to figure out another way to get paid and make a living and fulfill my purpose of helping people get stronger? And so I was kind of at that crossroads at that point this time last year. And I'm so happy with the decision that I made. So it turned out for the better. And then farther back, this would have been 2010. I wanted to join the military. I was in ROTC in college to join the military. And I have a medical condition that I didn't know at the time was disqualifying for all branches of service. And so I, was going through my sophomore year of college, thought I was going to graduate and become an officer, and then get told by the military physician that I actually can't go forward with ROTC at all. And I can't ever join the military because of this condition that I have. So that was crushing, and kind of had to recarve my path forward and figure out what I was going to do. And, here I am now. This was 11 years ago. So things turned out the way they did, and I have no regrets about it. But at the time, that was a pretty crushing experience for me.
I want to ask you about that, but I want to go back really quick to your experience at Equinox, not necessarily with the company, but when you had left, what did that look like? Because I think entrepreneurs now, they just came to your page, they just see 30,000 followers, right? And I think a lot of people, I know David Goggins has talked about this, and maybe Jocko does later in the book here too, or he's mentioned it on other occasions, but they almost forget what you've went through by the time they're, 20 minutes later and they're seeing all the accomplishments that you have and all the success you've had. Can you kind of paint the picture of how scary that jump was, or just nerve-wracking, or whatever the case may be? What was going through your mind at that time when you left and you realized that nothing was guaranteed, right? And there was that fear of failure, and I'm sure just like a bunch of other things that people are experiencing now, just kind of how you pushed through that and what that looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely, it was scary. I was mildly terrified, and part of me was sad to leave behind like a really phenomenal team, great company, and the structure that it provided in terms of, all the systems that they had for us and the clients and the facilities, like all that stuff was leaving that behind. But I also had to trust that on the other side of that decision was a whole world of opportunity for me. And it was again, extreme ownership. It was up to me to make that happen. And failure is inevitable. There's going to be failures in an entrepreneurial journey, but the only true failure is if you just quit. And I know myself, and I know that I'm not going to quit. I'm not, there will be pivots that we'll have to go a different direction at times. We'll have to clean up messes and make mistakes and learn from them. But that's all part of the process. And I read a lot of books about, business and mindset and things like that. So I felt like I was prepared as I would ever be to make the jump. And I knew that I would just learn so much along the way. So, and I have friends and some clients too that are kind of in that position right now where they have their 9-to-5 and they want to leave their 9-to-5 to start their business, but they're just scared. And there's a lot of fear and a lot of doubt that's holding them back. And now that I'm on the other side of that, it's so clear to me that you just have to trust and put in. It's still hard work. You have to put in work every single day. And it's just a different type of work when it's for your own mission, your own purpose, and this thing that you've created versus somebody else's company that you're just working for. So it's a very different experience. And I encourage people, entrepreneurship's not for everybody, but for the people that want to do it and they have that drive and that fire and that no quit mentality, you can make anything happen.
Tell me, what specifically, if there was something that you can kind of point to, allowed you to gain the clarity now that you kind of knew you were on the other side?
The fact that I go to bed every day, excited to wake up the next day. And 5:30, I wake up every day naturally at 5:30, and I can't wait to get out of bed and start working on my business. And because my business is my passion and my passion is my business, and they're very intertwined in my life and everything. So I think just being in complete alignment with my business and knowing that I can wake up every day and live on my terms with my schedule, get the clients that I want to train, and have the voice that I want to have for my business and on social media and everything. It's just all very aligned. And that I feel like all the energy is going in the right place. It's very clear to me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing because of all that.
And you talked about how that was kind of crushing in college. I believe it was your sophomore year that you realized,
Yes.
it was a disqualification. If you don't mind sharing kind of what that was, you don't have to if you don't want to. But to me, that would be even greater than the equinox point because you're younger. You're just faced with this wall. Like, figure out a way to get by it or go through it, right? Or ultimately just let it break you down. And here you are, right? We kind of see like this product now of like strong, independent, being able to start your own business and help other people achieve their goals. But that wasn't always like that. This to me seemed like a huge turning point. Can you kind of talk about maybe what that experience in depth was like?
Sure. So the condition I have it's called ulcerative colitis. It's a form of inflammatory bowel disease. It's basically like the sister disease of Crohn's. A lot of people have heard of Crohn's disease, but not as many have heard of ulcerative colitis. But anyway, so it's a gastrointestinal disease. Flare-ups are exacerbated by stress, and obviously the military is a very stressful environment. But I had been diagnosed 1 year prior, so it was pretty new to me, and I didn't know that it was disqualifying. I know obviously now, but at the time I didn't. So I went into ROTC with the expectation I would complete college, graduate, become an officer. And when I got that news that I couldn't continue, I had to leave the program. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, like you said, a wall. I thought I had my vision for the foreseeable future pretty, clear and cut out for me. And my path was like set, but then it turned out not to be that way. So I was very young at the time, would have been 19. So I definitely didn't have the like mental fortitude that I have now back then to like process it and come back from that and move forward in like a really positive mental space. So I kind of just, I went through the rest of college not really knowing what I wanted to do after that, let it happen and decided to just see where my career would take me after graduation. But I still continued to train. I was still going to the gym and because that's always just been part of who I am and for my whole life, basically. So I just didn't know like where it would lead me, I guess. So I knew I wanted to get stronger, but I just didn't know, what my path would be after graduation.
What was that moment that you realized I could really do a lot more? This really isn't going to break me now that I know that this is just the tip of the iceberg and this has made me that much stronger. What was that moment that you kind of realized anything's really possible for me now, knowing that I can get by something like this?
I think it's been a combination of different experiences that I've had. Those two are definitely part of it. I think another part of it is being married to an active duty service member and going through all the, the trials and tribulations that come with military life, moving all the time, deployment, training, like just all that stuff. I mean, that experience really shaped me in a big, significant way. Becoming very independent when he's been gone, and now we don't even live in the same state anymore for the foreseeable future for the next 2 years or so. So I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now without probably all of those experiences combined. I think they just really worked together to make me who I am and be able to overcome the difficulties and the challenges that I've had in my life.
I love that, Rebecca. Tell people where they can find more about you, tap into some of the stuff you're doing now, and see if they could be a part of the program, work with you.
Yeah, so my business is called Semper Stronger, and so website is semperstronger.com, Semper, SEMPER, stronger.com. That's where you'll find everything about our membership and programs and how to connect with me there. And then on Instagram for the business, I'm at Semper Stronger, and on my personal page, I am at Rebecca.Rouse.
Perfect. Now, Rebecca, I know you're just kind of in the earlier stages of kind of building a team as far as your business goes. But what is a couple things that you can give, or even just one thing you can give to entrepreneurs right now looking to start their own thing? Let's say they've left that 9 to 5 and now they're kind of in a situation where they're wondering, what's that first step I should take? What's something that would really help me be successful right away that I could apply tomorrow?
Honestly, I think just start, just do something, like take an action, one thing. For most people, I think that's the biggest barrier, is they're afraid to start. They don't know where to start. They don't know. And I didn't know a lot of this too. It's just, you learn by doing, but make a post, make an announcement, record yourself talking about something, like share with the world what you want to do, what your passion is, what your vision is, and everything will just, I don't like to say everything will fall into place, because you have to work for that to happen. Like, you have to make everything happen, but you just have to start. And I think that's the hardest first step for people, is just to do something. So take action and don't be complacent.
To win the Iron Maiden to win that, right? That takes like a certain amount of mental fortitude to be able to do something like that. Can you explain that experience and what that is for people who aren't familiar with that?
Yeah, so the Iron Maiden is a challenge through Strong First. Strong First is the organization through which I have my kettlebell certification. Any participant in one of their certifications, they have a kettlebell, barbell, and bodyweight certification. And at any of their events, their certifications, you can attempt this challenge. And it's called, for women, it's called the Iron Maiden, and for men, it's called the Beast Tamer. So for the Iron Maiden challenge, it's with a 24 kilogram kettlebell, which is 53 pounds. You have to complete 1 rep of a pistol squat, 1 rep of an overhead press, and 1 rep of a weighted pull-up with the 24 kilo kettlebell. And if you can successfully do those according to the standard, then you can achieve the title. So at the time, I was the 16th woman in the world to achieve it. This was 2016, and there are now 50 women on the list, which is super cool to see. But yeah, that was one of the things that I'm most proud of, I guess, in my strength career.
50 is definitely more than 16, but still a very minute amount of people, women have been able to achieve that. What do you think it was for you that kind of built you up to be in a position to do that? I know that was 5 years ago. Were you still at that point in your career where you had made that transition that was like earlier on? You're still at Equinox at that time?
Yep.
Okay. So at that point, how were you kind of dividing up the time to be able to train and then, be in a position to compete like that?
I've been training for strength for many years. So that was just kind of a natural part of the journey. I've been training with kettlebells I started training with kettlebells in 2014. So I had been pretty well versed in kettlebells for a couple of years at the time. And it would just seem like a natural progression to train for. I loved lifting heavy. I love lifting kettlebells. So it just seemed like a natural thing to train for. And when I decided to get certified through Strong First, I actually didn't even know what the Iron Maiden challenge was. Somebody told me about it a couple of weeks before the certification. And I was like, I wonder if I could do this. A couple of weeks should be enough time to train. And I did it. So I had a good foundation from gymnastics and just from having strength trained for many years prior to that. So prior to doing the Iron Maiden. So I was in a good place to train for that and be able to build the strength required for it.
Now you're working on your business, you're working with clients. What are some of the things you do to detox other than working out that kind of keep you in a peak state to be able to perform your best consistently? And like, if you need to be the owner here, you need to be wife here, you need to be, right, all these different roles. What kind of keeps you with that full energy, allowing you to recharge and continue to produce results?
Sleep is key for me and probably for most people, and should be, I think, more talked about because it's so powerful. It's kind of becoming more mainstream now to talk about the importance of sleep, but it's critical for sure, just for mental clarity and recovery from my training and from workday and everything. So I definitely prioritize at least 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Nutrition is key as well. I try to avoid the processed food and added sugars and just really fuel my body with clean, whole foods, minimal sugar, very little alcohol, just to keep myself sharp and in a good mental state and physical state. I go for walks or whatever, take some time to decompress, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I try to take at least 30 to 60 minutes a day where I'm just, outside and walking and just not doing something on the business, but just for my own personal development. So those are some of the things that kind of keep me sharp and recovered.
Are there any books that you would recommend for people who are entrepreneurs who are starting their own business? I know we talked about Jocko Willink and some of the books he's written. Are there any other books that you think you can kind of point to, either that would help with the business side specifically, or kind of give you the right mindset that have helped you?
Definitely all of Jocko's books. Conscious Coaching is specific to the fitness industry. That's by Brett Bartholomew. I read a lot. Honestly, I read a lot of mindset books more than business specific books. I think John Maxwell has a lot of good stuff on leadership, high performance habits. Obviously, David Goggins' book. Essentialism is a great one too. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great one about.
I finished that one before I started Jocko's.
Yeah, that one for sure. And Cash Flow Quadrant is another one by Robert Kiyosaki. I love just reading from other people's experiences on how to maximize life, whether it's business, fitness, wealth, all that stuff. I think that there's so much out there. We just have to go get it.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing now that, listen, I'm not even afraid to say this here, but growing up, all the books that we were assigned, we had like Spark Notes. There were other ways that you can kind of get the information. I just wasn't taking it in. If it wasn't something I was interested in, I didn't give it as much attention. as I should have. Now just growing and reading and as an entrepreneur, learning about different things that whether it's real estate, whether it's business, whether it's mindset, fitness, whatever the case may be, just being open. I realize like you have to be willing to learn in all areas. You just have to be willing to be open-minded and just open to anything because you're not sure what will kind of get you to that next level. For you, has that been kind of a growth mindset you've always had, or has that been a product of your work ethic through fitness that you've kind of been more open because you've seen what's possible for yourself?
Definitely the latter. I always thought I had a growth mindset, but it wasn't until recently that I actually realized that like I didn't. I had a pretty fixed mindset, and just through the experiences I've had recently, I've done a lot of work on my mindset, and I think I'm moving more in the direction of a growth mindset. I think there's always work to do, but definitely more along the lines of the growth mindset at this point through my experiences.
All right, Rebecca, what is the kind of impact you want to have on the fitness industry and then just your legacy when it's all said and done?
Well, I think it all comes back to my why statement for myself. My business is to empower people to become physically and mentally stronger so that they can overcome life's challenges with confidence. And I think that training for physical strength, which is, the majority of my business, is helping people get physically stronger. And like we talked about earlier, that confidence that comes with building physical strength, that bleeds into every aspect of life and the way that we carry ourselves, the way we interact with other people, the way we can, I'm not a parent, but I imagine, and I've heard the way that we raise our kids to be strong, confident people. And I think that's the way that we can better our society and leave the world and the next generation better and stronger than we were.
Because you mentioned that, I'm going to go there with one more question. But the next generation, I think where we're going as a society because of social media, it's kind of been more about attention. How can you get people's attention now because there's so much information, and why should they come to your platform? Or why should they listen to what you have to say and all these different things? And I think that there's been some question too, from what I've heard, just listening to guys like Tom Bilyeu and Mike Rashid, who they've interviewed about the next generation as far as mental toughness. Are those principles that were instilled by our parents and grandparents that they had to go through, are those still being passed along to where they can kind of endure the pain that it takes to go after whatever it is they want? I know you kind of talked about this in a way, you don't have kids now, but how do you think that doing things like fitness and pushing your limits can actually help you be in a position to parent your kids or to pass on whatever lessons to the next generation a little bit better?
We need to prioritize kids being in sports, being competitive, and not being behind a screen all day. I think that kids need to continue to learn how to interact with one another, to be civil with one another, maybe be exposed to some bullying, because the reality of the real world is that not everyone's nice. And so helping kids understand the way the world is in reality and not in like this fantasy world of social media, and getting them acquainted with losing so that not everyone's getting a trophy up to 10th place or last place, whatever. Like, losing is part of life, and kids need to learn that from a young age. And the more we tell them it's okay for them to, cry and be last place, and it's okay coddling them, I don't think that's doing anybody any favors. So I think making sure that kids can continue to foster their interpersonal skills with other kids and with adults. And it all comes down to parenting. I'm not a parent myself. I cannot speak from experience, and I never will try to until when I have that experience. So I'm not sitting here telling anybody how they should parent, but just from the way that I see society and from what the news and everything, than what we're seeing going on right now, I think it's more important now than ever to make sure that we're raising kids with those experiences, those values, and making sure that we're setting them up for the real world and not to have the real world crush them when they become adults.
Yeah, guys, amazing stuff from Rebecca. But, ultimately some of the things right there too at the end that she touched on that I really, really love is that losing is part of growing. And, when you fail, it's not about that failure that people look back on. Only if you stop and you allow that to be the kind of point in which you're going to be remembered by. But if you just use that as a way to learn and a way to push forward, you will continue to grow. You will continue to gain success in whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. And that ultimately will make you a better person and just a better overall entrepreneur to give back to more people, knowing that you're going to be credible, you practice what you preach, and you've been in situations that you've had to overcome. That will make you that much more tougher. Rebecca, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Truly grateful to have had you on the show. Definitely want one day, got to get a workout in. You, your husband, I'd love to do something too that, he may even do in the military to like stay in shape and stuff like that. I'm always looking for kind of like new workouts now after this competition.
Yeah.
To go forward here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully people will learn something and gain some value from this. But everyone's free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to engage with people. I love meeting new people through social media. That's one of the good things I think that has come from social media, is just making this big world a lot smaller and really enabling us to connect with people from all over the world and learn from one another and have meaningful conversations, which is just something that is going away. Like, instead of just, being behind a screen and posting hateful comments and telling everyone why they suck and why they're wrong, like, if we can work together and use social media in the positive way, we can really foster a meaningful dialogue and learn from one another and appreciate our differences and acknowledge that they're there. But at the end of the day, recognize that most of us really do want the same thing, and we want to just move forward in a positive direction.
Surround yourself with people that are positive. They don't have to be like-minded in a sense that they perpetuate your way of thinking.
Exactly.
In fact, try and find the people who challenge you. Right? Discourse allows us to change and grow. Like Rebecca said, guys, thank you. Rebecca, thank you. And look forward again to working with you down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right, take care.